Okay, here we have a 2006 Dodge Grand Caravan. I'm going to replace the fender on this and the door. I did see a video on replacing a fender and they were very helpful. I used the information from that to get the one off in the junkyard. However, I could not find any videos or really any information, even text information on removing and replacing the door. So I'm going to do that. The door and the fender that I got in the junkyard is from a 2005 Caravan. 2001 through 2007, I believe, are the vehicles that have the same parts. I'm going to jack this up and get the jack stands under there and get the wheel off so I could get better access to the underneath the wheel well and all that stuff. All right, we're prepared here to start doing some stuff. I'm going to point out first, I have the junkyard part right here. This is the part that's down. This is down by the bumper, so this will be standing up like this. There's two bolts down there, and there's a bolt going this way that all hooks into the bumper. They were kind of hard to get off in the junkyard. They tend to be pretty rusty, it seems, and not a lot of room to turn with your wrench. So it's a little easier sometimes in a junkyard because you don't really have to worry about too much about some of the other parts of the car. The vehicle I got this part off of was pretty much stripped in the front of the car, so there was a lot of room to work, but still kind of cramped immediately in here. So you got two bolts here, one. Then these are up inside the hood. When you open the hood, there'll be 1, 2, 3, and 4. This one is going up towards the windshield. You have to lower the hood a little bit and just prop it up, lower than the arm that actually holds it up. And it's just kind of a quarter turn of your box wrench, and it's just like maybe 30 turns or 40 turns instead of some nice turns with your ratchet. And this part here, I believe to access this you need to take the mirror off. I don't remember exactly. When I get to that I'll verify that, but this is a torque bit at the top of the panel, and that's one of the helpful things that the other video showed, because I don't know how you would ever find that out without breaking something. And then this part here is within the door well, underneath the mirror also, so we'll have to take the mirror panels off there and remove the whole mirror to get to this part. And then there's one here that's actually inside the door well. You have to get access to that, I believe, underneath the wheel well cover. And there's two other ones at the bottom here, which would be down underneath the mud flap, and they weren't too bad to get off. I don't know how mine will be. And then the mud flap just kind of has some one-time clips. I might be able to reuse one of these here. I don't know if the ones on the vehicle will come off easily or not, but I just took all of that. We'll see. You could put screws in there instead. Okay, we're back here. I have the hood opened. I'm going to start with the bolts on the top here. I don't know that there's any real order to doing it. It's not like this is going to fall off and because these bolts are off. So I'll just start here just because they're nice and plain in the open. There's one back here behind the hinge here. That's we'll have to drop this down. Just bring the hood down a little bit and prop it up with a different stick. So I'm going to start loosening these up. I'll tell you what size they are. I think they're 10 millimeter. It was only like maybe 2 or 3 different sockets for this whole thing. And then here's the torque bit right here. Just goes down through the plastic there. I thought it was hidden, but it's not. Okay, I got the easy bolts off. I just propped this up. I have an adjustable rod from an old bed. I just propped it only halfway up or so, and you can see the bolt down in here. And so you just got to get in right in here like this, and you can do little 1/8 inch or quarter turns. All of these bolts are 10 millimeters. There's 4 of them in total. So I'm going to do this for a little bit. So I'll be back with you. I'll tell you about how many turns it was, just so you know where you're at when you're doing it, because doing 20 or 30 of these is really annoying. Okay, I finally got the screw out of there. As you can see in here, way in the back there. It's pretty tight. You can get the box wrench in there. It's a 10 millimeter. I used all ends of the wrench. I started off with the closed end, and eventually you can't slip it over the bolt easily enough, and it's not even a quarter turn. I mean, I think you turn it this much each time. I counted it about 60 turns. It's quite annoying. Eventually I had to resort to the open end, going like this, and then actually turning it because you can't get it onto the nut. So I just kept turning it. It is part of the hinge area here for the support. So there's a little bit of tension on there. This whole thing moves now because it's unbolted. So eventually you can turn it with your fingers. My bolt fell down inside there above the strut, and fortunately I was able to reach it. It did fall, and I thought it was going to be lost, but it was down, sitting in down inside the frame down in here. I was able to find it, but if you're careful with that, you shouldn't have an issue. All right, so that whole top is loose. I'm going to probably try taking the mirror off now. From what I saw on the YouTube video that I watched, which was quite helpful, is we pry this off right here with a small screwdriver and pop that out. Hold it with your finger or something, maybe down to about halfway, and I got it off in the junkyard just by kind of prying on it and pulling a little bit. There's a little clip down inside here, and it kind of feels like you're going to break it, but it eventually will pop out. If I do ruin this piece, that piece is in the junkyard, so I can always just go and get that. Okay, I think this is going to come out. I just basically took a small screwdriver. There's a little clip here. And I don't know if there's any clips here, but it did pop out a little bit. I'm just kind of grasping it right here. Just kind of lift it up and out. This part here was down in this hole here, and then these bolts we have to take off. There's one here, and there's one below here. We'll get to that. I think I might have to open the door. I'm not sure, or if this whole thing came off. I'll let you know. Okay, I took these 2 bolts out. They were a torque bit, a T30. This one here is a smaller one. I'll let you know what that is once I get that out. There is one below here. You don't have to take anything off of here. This is all one piece. I did have to pry my door, or pry this panel out. I was able to do it with a screwdriver and a hammer pretty easily, because I have to open the door to get the other bolt out. It's inside here. So it's right behind here. Get a light. I don't know if you can see. This camera's not specifically that great with light, but right in there. So that's a third one, and then that whole thing will come right out. And apparently the one video that I watched, the guy had a repair manual, and it was saying to detach it and unhook all the wires and stuff. Yeah, you don't have to do that. This can just be lifted up and then just taped to the windshield to be out of the way. So I'm going to do that. Okay, the mirror is off. I got the bottom bolt out. That came out, all these bolts come out pretty easily. And I just taped it to the windshield right here. And it's up and out of the way. And there's enough play. It's just fine. So here's the other bolt that's exposed when you take the mirror off. So that's just like the ones that were in here in the trunk or the hood area. That's also a 10 millimeter. So I'll take that off just because it's easy and right there. And then everything else starts to be down here where the mud flap is and in the bumper. But as you can see, it's been completely ripped apart off the bumper. So that may not even be an issue at all. It'll be more when we're putting it back together. So the junkyard also has the plastic there. I left that there. I could probably get by with this. We'll see how much of this is destroyed and if it breaks more when I'm taking it off. But for the most part, it's in okay condition. So, all right, take that bolt off, and I'll see where we're at that point, and probably start at the bottom. We probably have a good 30 minutes at least of pretty good daylight left. Okay, I'm going to start on the bottom here by the mud flap. There's a strange bolt here. There's like it's not even a bolt, it's just made out of tin. It basically just holds the mud flap over this, and then I think there's another bolt underneath here or behind here. Yeah, so I think you take this off, and then there's another bolt behind it, and then the whole thing screws out. So this is a 11 millimeter. You need a deep socket, or you can use your box wrench on it, but it's easier with a deep socket. And just take that off. So I'll let you know if it's the same size bolt underneath when I get to that one. Okay, I got that off. But you can't pull this out because it's attached over here under the wheel well. There is a screw here, and then these two things come out, but they're probably going to break. If we're lucky, they don't. So let me get those off and take it from there. Alright, I got this screw out here. It's just a Phillips screw right here. And these plastic clips here. I started taking the one off, and they are going to break off, so I'll just pop them off. And we can either try to get those replaced or just put a screw in there. It really doesn't matter. Okay, so that's off. So we should be able to get this down here. This is exposed here. So we got this one, which I don't know if that one is also an 11 millimeter. Actually, that socket's not deep enough. Alright, so both of these are a 10 millimeter. So I have a deep well socket. And this whole bolt comes off. This nut here is on this bolt. That whole thing is going to come off. This is going to turn, and then this will come off, and then this whole panel will be loose right here. And we don't have too much further to go. Okay, I got those off. As you can see, this is all loose here. We still have a screw here. And I'm not sure what else. This seems all loose here. And this is all pretty much loose and busted off because of the impact. Okay, so I got this. This is off here. And there's a panel in here. And if you move this foam, you can see in behind here. Yeah, hold on. You can see behind here. There's a bolt right up in there. Right there. That's part of the panel. So that's another 10 millimeter. So we'll take that one off. And I don't think there's too much more to get off. I think it's all, this whole part here is done, and then by the bumper, like I said, that was all busted apart, so this might just come right off after I get that off, so we'll see. Okay, so I forgot that you need to take your headlight off, and that's just these 3 screws here, which are 8mm. So I already loosened them. They just come right out, and then this whole thing just pulls right out, and you can just set it up here. Now, if this was together correctly and not damaged, that would give you better access to these screws right here. So there's 2 screws, 2 bolts here, or 1 bolt here. I think 1 bolt. And then underneath here, there's 2 more 10mm bolts. As you can see, this is all bent and shredded here. And this piece of metal that this is bolted to, I'm going to have to bend that out to screw the new piece on. So that shouldn't be too bad. It looks like it's in good shape. So I'll take these 2 bolts off and see if this panel comes off now. But I'm going to have to fix this when I get a new bumper. But this should be all okay once we get the new panel on and bend this out. I think everything should fit together okay. Okay, so I got those 2 bolts off down there, or screws. There's this one up the top here, which is a torque bit. It's a 25, so we'll just get that off. And all right, and then that should be about it. Let's see what happens here. It should come right off. Now open the hood back up. I had to close the hood to access that torque bit. So, all right. This comes up here. Let's see. I'm going to put the camera on the tripod. So, okay. Should lift off here. Let's see what's down here. There it is. So now we'll be putting the new one on here. I don't think I even have to take this off. The video that I watched, the guy took the whole wheel well thing off, and he said to make sure to put that back on again before you put the panel on and screw it in, because this will be hard to tuck back in underneath the lip of the fender. So I'm not even going to pull those pins out in the back there, which they won't break then either, so I won't have to replace them. That's the plan so far. So if I end up having to take that off for some reason, then I do. I haven't determined yet if I'm going to put the fender on and then take the door off. I probably will do that, because I think you can access everything with the fender on, but as I'm looking at it, I can see the bolts and everything for the door. So I think I'm going to end up just unscrewing the bolts for the hinges that are physically onto the door right in here, and I believe they go straight in, and the bolts here have the oval holes for adjustment. So if that's the case, assuming that all these doors are made exactly the same, maybe the other door, if I get that on here, I won't have to adjust any of this stuff. So I'm probably going to just try to unscrew these 4 bolts here And then the wire harness here should unplug. Okay, I fiddled around with this. I ended up putting this panel on here. The part down here that was bent that this bolts onto, I had some trouble with that. It's still not quite right. The gapping by the headlight is a little bit off. There's a big gap here, and this is pretty close here. Everything's not exactly tightened the way it would be, and for the most part it is, but I only have one screw up here. It's, I think, as good as it's going to get. Everything's lined up with the hood. It doesn't, it's not raised up too high or anything like that, so the gap is pretty good here. The hood doesn't hit, so I'm pretty happy with that. The door still opens and closes here. The gap looks pretty good, except for the bottom is a little close down here, but I don't know if that's going to be an issue. We'll see once we get the other door on. This door seems like it's down a bit because the clasp here does bang. It kind of hits there. So if the other door is up a little bit higher, that gap will go away, I would think. This was quite easy to get on. I've had this panel on and off about 6 times. So it just slides right in. There's just a couple of bolts. So the trouble parts, I think, will probably be down here in the bumper. I'm probably going to have put some wires in here and some tape to fix this up until I get a bumper skin. I'm going to call this a wrap for tonight. Bye.